Hi guys, welcome to this new class for FX PhD art102. So today we're going to keep talking about composition and we're going to see in Photoshop how we can actually compose an image using the crop and the distort tool. We have now in Photoshop quite a wide range of tools to help us to achieve this sort of task, and that's what we're going to do today. So I'm going to start with this one. I've selected like a few photos that we're going to work with, and we're going to be able to play a little bit and try to see how we can compose different version of the images following the different rules that we've explained in the two first lessons. So starting with this one, which is, you can see like is something which is relatively distorted because of the angle of view. How can we compose this image following the different rules that we've mentioned before? So first of all, I'm gonna duplicate the image so we can have different options, and I'm going to start with this one. So this one, obviously you can see that there is the main character in the middle of the frame, so naturally we could be tempted to go for a centered composition, and in that case that would be literally putting this character right in the middle of the frame. So if we just take the crop tool by pressing C or clicking here, you can then readjust how the frame is going to be. And for now, I'm just going to put it actually, I'm just going to put it rule of third. So here, by pressing here, you have different overlay that you can put on top of your crop node to help you to define which one you're going to use. So you can go for the rule of thirds, just a normal grid that would give you the verticals and the horizontals. You can go for diagonals to walk following these diagonal lines of interest. The triangles are the golden triangles that I explained to you before. So just as a reminder, is one diagonal and two perpendiculars to this diagonal that goes to the other corners. The golden ratio is the proportions of the golden number. So it's going to not be the third, it's going to be here. You're going to have a golden rectangle here as well, here and here. So 4 golden rectangle, and the golden spiral where you have the center and you can follow the spiral for your composition. So for now, I'm just going to go for, let's say, like a grid, because actually I'm going to try to walk on this building behind and try to make it a bit straighter. So first of all, I'm going to try to place my character in the center. At the moment, she's a little bit on the side here, so I'm just going to cut a bit here to put her really in the middle of the frame. I also want to get rid of this guy here because it's not really interesting. So I'm going to follow my center line is this one. So I'm going to put her right in the center to create like a center composition. So that's going to be the first part. Now, based on that, I'm going to leave it like this for now because I just want to focus on her. So that's going to be my first step here. So now she's right in the middle. I want to put this a bit straighter because obviously it's completely it's completely distorted. So by pressing Ctrl T and activate the transform node, I can now and pressing Ctrl, I can distort my image and try to make it straight. But I don't have any guides, so I'm going to bring some guides to do that. So by pressing Ctrl and R, I can bring the rules, and from the rules I can extract some lines that are going to be my verticals. So it's going to help me to bring everything back to the vertical, and I can also bring a few horizontal to check. And by pressing Ctrl H, it's going to disappear. Okay, so Ctrl H is going to bring forward this overlay to help the guides, and by pressing again Ctrl H, it's just going to go. So I'm going to press Ctrl T again to activate my transform tool, and by pressing Ctrl and taking in the corner, I can now distort it. So I can try to walk on my verticals first, making sure that I am vertical, but also trying to get my horizontal right. So there you go. So now you see I've got like my verticals are fine. My horizontal seems to be fine. Maybe this one needs to be just a bit higher, like that. And you're going to walk that until you've got a good result. just a bit more here. And now we have something which is a bit better. Right, so my line here is vertical. My vertical are fine. My horizontal seems to be fine. So I think we're good. So now I press enter. I'm just gonna lock this. And I can press Ctrl H to remove the overlay. And now you can see that I'm missing a few bits here. So I can crop again, or I could potentially extend it doing a matte painting if I really wanted to keep that. But also I'm not a big fan of this format. I'd like something a bit more, you know, flat here, like wide, like a more rectangle type of format. So I'm gonna go again for my crop, and I'm going to select my image here, and I'm gonna try to find the right formats for it by making sure that my character is where I want it to be. So I want the character to be right in the middle. So there you go. The middle is here. So she's now in the middle. And maybe I don't want to close here. I want to have the lines keep going up. And that would be my first composition. So we have now reformatted the image and created a composition following the rules that we know as being, in this case, the centered rule. And that gives us something which is quite interesting, quite balanced. If I was pushing the idea of like a photography, maybe I would go for a black and white version of it. And maybe I would just bring the curves, maybe, just to tweak a little bit the contrast, reinforcing some areas and how I want the contrast to work on this image. Depending on what you want to do, you might want to go for something relatively bright and contrasty, or you might want to go for something a bit, I would probably go for something a bit more like that, still keeping some quite nice contrast here, but I like the idea of having something a bit like flatter behind her, so we can play a bit, you know, with the negative space ID here and try to focus a bit more on her. So something where we would naturally go, not clumping the white too much. And I think that's it. So if I now go for, yes, I want to crop the image. There you go. So that would be my proposal for a composition of this photograph. That can be one. So that is one example, but obviously we can do different version, which we're going to do now. So just to remind you, that was the original image, and that is what we have now. So I hope you see how just by reformatting the picture correctly and placing the main character in the correct position, in this case the center, because that's the composition that we chose, it really impacts the perception of it, and it gives like a more balanced image. Obviously we could have done something completely different. If I take this one again, and if I go for the crop, and this time I'm going to apply, what could we take? Like a golden ratio format. So that gives me that sort of thing. And I'm going to place the main character now in one of the golden ratio center of interest here. I still don't really like this character here, so I'm just going to get rid of him for now. And I'm going to try something slightly different by putting my main character right on one of the important points here that we have. For now, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to try to bring this line here. I'm going to try to maybe, actually, you know what? I'm going to distort it first and rebalance the image vertical first, because I'm going to try to align one of this line onto this golden ratio line. So I'm going to bring back a few verticals and horizontal to help me, here. And I'm going to distort my image again. to try to get my verticals and horizontal right. Which would be something like that. Bit too much here. Okay, so now my verticals and my horizontal are better. I'm gonna go again for the crop and see with my guides, golden ratio guide, what interesting I can do with this frame. So I can either try to put her on this slide, but I don't think that will work. So I'm probably gonna more try to put her on the other one. This one is probably more interesting. And because we have this golden ratio line right there, here, I would love to be able to do something like that, but we can still get rid of this guy later, or we can potentially even crop a bit more in the frame if we have the resolution. So here now she's right there, and so my line of golden ratio line is here. So I'm trying to bring an interesting line here. That might be tricky actually, because this guy is really here. Well, let's keep the guy for now and see how we feel about it. So my golden ratio line here, rectangle is here, and she's right there. I'm gonna flatten that a bit more. There you go. Now she has the face. Remember what we said about the eye right on this point, which is one important point. And we have the other one line, which is right there, which is really close to what we want, which was here. So I'm just gonna crop here, and that's what we have. Actually, I cropped a bit too high. So I'm going now to kind of quickly extend it as if I was doing a DMP, just so we can compare the result at the end, even if it's not like a perfect DMP. That's not the exercise that we're doing right now. Right now, the exercise is really to just talk about the... Actually, I'm going to leave the guy. I'm going to extend the tree here. That's how I'm going to get rid of it. And just placing something here so we fill the gap. So just finishing as if the frame was continuing here. So we just compare the different composition that we have as a result. So don't be distracted by this very quick and dirty patch, which is just meant to, you know, not do something too weird in your eyes. There you go. Let's work with that. So you see now we have like a format which is completely different. It's really flat, but the character is still in a very important place. So if I zoom in a bit, and if I compare it with my previous composition, we have two completely different approach. Should I go for black and white as well? So we are in the, so we are in the same, sorry, I'm not on the right layer. I didn't flatten them. There you go. So now I've got two black and white photo based on the same, but we have two completely different formats. So this one is also quite interesting, I think, as this one was quite nice as well. So it doesn't tell the same story. This one really is about being alone, being, you know, in the middle of the frame, alone in front of a big flat building, and it's all about loneliness. This one is way more inside the city. The perspective are way more important here, by having this line following this composition, like we give enough space on the left to actually have a possibility to enter into the frame. So we actually really focus on the street here way more. She happens to be here to remind us, different layers and this flat, facade of building, but we are engaged to go on this street, especially by keeping this guy here. It's about walking here and go and discover what's behind. When I look at this image now, I wonder what's behind this building. If I continue walking on this street, where am I going to be? If I stay there, it's not about the street at all. We don't really focus here. It just brings a little bit of contrast and complexity in the image, but it's all about the building, which is flat, and this character, this subject, right in the middle. So it's more about loneliness than anything else. So you see, by just composing the image differently, you can have very different results, and that's really important to understand the composition part of that, because it tells a story. So let's move on now. Let's take this one. We can do the same exercise. If I bring back here, and I'm just gonna, so this one, you can see the horizontal are not horizontal, and obviously you have one very important point here, the sun. Potentially this can be interesting, this lamppost, or this vertical dark trees that could be also potentially creating a nice effect. You have also the shadows here, which are quite nice. So maybe we can try to use that in a composition. So first of all, I'm going to bring my horizontal back to the horizontal, because that would be better. Actually, I'm going to use the rules as well. Otherwise, it's difficult. And I'm going to bring a couple of verticals as well, just to try to align my things. There you go. So Control T, Control in the corner, and you can have now horizontal, verticals, at least for the lampposts. There you go. So we're not bad here. Good, so I'm going to work with that. I'm going to hide these rules, and I'm going to bring my crop again. Now I'm going to go maybe for, what could we do here? Let's go for rule of third. So rule of third, I've got my line here, I've got one here. I know it's not very easy to see. You see more here. So obviously I could try to put the sun on one. So my line is here. So it means that my center of interest is there. So my sun being here, you can see it's right on one of the third. Obviously I need to crop in it quite a lot. So now I'm here, and you see that my lamppost follows the other line. So I managed now to have my sun is in one of the important points, and my lamppost following the other line. So naturally, this is going to give me a relatively well-balanced image. I can also even do that, or that maybe. So this highlight, on the street here is actually on my third line as well. So now I've got my sun, which is pointing in my center of interest here. I've got a strong line here created by the light on the pavement following my rule of third line here, and I've got my lamppost following the vertical through my third line. So if I do that now, naturally, this image now is well balanced. It's a nice composition, and it feels interesting. If I just flip between what I had before, let's bring back my history. Oh, that's a lot. Let's remove that. Oops, I removed too much. Bring back my history again. Thank you. I'm just going to remove these for now, and I'm going to bring that here. There you go. I'm just going to make it a bit smaller so we can actually see something here. Can I do that? Yes. So if I go back to my original, it was like that. and now it's like this. So big difference here between this composition here and what we had before. So we lost a bit of sky, but now we are way more into something which feels right here. You know, everything, first of all, it was not horizontal, so it's a bit strange, and it was a bit like we don't really know where to focus. Here we created something way more composed. So it's a very traditional composition here. It's just following the rule of third, but it's a total valid one, which you need to play with because it's relatively easy to do and it gives you nice results. So one point of interest here, one line, strong line here, the other strong line is there. So we follow three big principles of the rule of third here. So it's a normal rule of third composition, which works nicely, I think, and creates a much more interesting image at the end. Let's move on this one. So this one is also quite interesting because there's a lot of things that we can do. Let's try to, what do you have now? Let's put the golden spiral, for example. Could we do something with the golden spiral here? Oops. If I was, we can also rotate, by the way, when we do the crop, but it's not necessarily. So the golden spiral, you're going to see that the spiral moves depending on how you prep, if you want something vertical or horizontal. So if I was going for something like this, for example, and I was placing, so you see here my spiral is there. If I was placing my center of interest right at the beginning of the spiral, here, I can see that I don't have that many things following. This is fine because that follows this line, so that's quite good. I would have a bit of tree here following, so it's not bad. I mean, I am totally into a golden spiral type of composition by doing this. I just have this element which is a bit strange, but I'm still good. Like I'm following the rules here. So I could do something like that, and I would be in a good composition. Like that would follow the right composition. If I go back and I go for something slightly different, like what can we do? Rule of third again here. I could place my red, which is the most visible things here, and potentially rotate this a little bit just to align. Having my pull here, I don't really have anything on this side I can follow, but at least here I've got like a nice, so here I've got another good composition following the rule of third. I'm right where I'm supposed to be here, and you can see that it gives something interesting. So it's important for you to play with the different. I'm gonna go back actually after on this one as well, and we're gonna try something different. See, it's important to try different options because you can find that maybe, I don't know. Obviously, I cannot do like a centered here, but if I was going for, so triangle, I don't really have anything going on the side here. I don't have that sort of image right now, so it's quite tricky to do a composition following the golden triangles, just because, see how the lines works, by the way. So you can follow that guidance. But obviously it's a bit tricky to do that on this image because I don't have anything going in the other direction, so I would not really be able to do that. Golden spiral, we just tried it. Golden ratio. So yeah, it's really more between the golden ratio and the rule of third, I'd say, for that. Golden ratio, is there anything you can do with that? If we place it here, it's a bit empty there. So you see, you don't have that many options on this image, I think. So it's also interesting to focus on what you can do. If I place it here on this golden ratio line, I don't really have anything interesting to play with around. So the only really difference I can make is by having this on the golden ratio instead of the rule of third. Actually, look, if I do that, I can actually crop in something which is quite nice. So you see here, this time I'm gonna actually, you know what? I'm gonna duplicate the image as well. And we're gonna compare the two versions. So the first version is gonna be the one I just did, the golden ratio one. So I'm gonna place the red on this point here. And I'm going to place the horizon on this line. I need to rotate a little bit. So you see now my line here of 3 is following my golden ratio line here, and my center of interest here is also on my golden ratio point, which is a big crop in the image, and we lose a bit of quality, but it's fine. Need to a bit more, something like that. So I'm gonna do that for the first one, and for the second one, where is the second one? That's 1. 42, blah, blah, blah. It's this one. I'm going to go for the rule of third. So I'm just going to place it on the third this time. So center of interest, center of interest. Maybe just flattening it a bit. No really possibility to bring the horizon line onto any of the rule of third line if I want to keep that here. So I'm just going to focus on this. That is my submission number 2. And I'm just going to flip between the two of them and see what's the result. So that's my rule of third one. And that's my other one. So let's put them at the same scale. Actually, I'm going to put them in here. So rule of third, golden ratio. So slightly different. One is taking more than the other one. The horizon on this one seems to be more centric, which is not necessarily good. This one brings a bit more of the sun that here, because here it's there, but you know, we can't really focus on the sky because we have as much sky as we have the ground. On this one, we have more sky than we have the ground because we have managed to align this onto the line. So it gives us more sky. So it's probably, for this photo, a better composition than this one, because this one feels a little bit too symmetrical between the sky and the ground, with this horizontal line going in the middle, which is not always a very good thing, I'd say. We have a bit more of the tree though on the other one. So you see slightly different options here for the same photo at the beginning, and just the difference is literally just following the rule of thirds, or here the golden ratio. So you see, it's really sensitive, and it has to basically follow your sensibility. You are dealing with, you know, what you want to tell in the story. So this was one. We had to see also that one that we could play with, because it's all about where do you put this child. You can put it there, which is relatively interesting because it's all about, oh, look, I'm really running into this field. You know, I'm really in the middle of the field. You know, you embed the small character into a very big portion of the image taken by the grass. So obviously this becomes the most important part of it. The sky is a little bit cut out, so it's a bit irrelevant. If you were doing the opposite here, it's way more about freedom, and because you have so much sky this time, it's really like, look how you know, free I am. I'm enjoying my time, etc. You see, it's just telling a different story. Also, by being on the right and looking in that direction, it gives the movement of, you know, I'm about to go out of the frame, so it's quite dynamic. If you manage to do something like this, or if you were maybe flipping the image and make him still, or flipping the character and make him looking where, you know, in another side where you would have a lot of grass in front of him, that would be a different story as well, because you would leave the space in the frame to run. If you were composing him like that, for example, which is not really following any rule, but it's still, I mean, you have the right to do whatever you want. And like, for example, you compose around the tree, that you put the tree right in the middle, automatically the kid is about to go out of the frame. So it's more urgent. It tells another story again. It might be like, oh, we're about to lose him, or where is he going to be, compared to a tree rooted in the middle of the frame, which, you know, tells the story of not moving, stability. This one is about to go away. So you see, what I'm trying to show you here is how we can tell different stories by literally just moving your crop, your frame around your image, and trying to see how you can really compose. Composition is about telling a story. So try to take some photos. I can share this with you if you want for the class, so you can play with them. But try to take some of your photos and try to compose it differently, bringing different sort of, you know, rule of thirds, or maybe golden ratio, spiral, or, you know, whatever, so you can do your test and see how it reacts. And hopefully you'll have nice results. And feel free to share them then with us, and I'd be more than happy to give you any sort of feedback if we can. Thank you very much, Guy, for watching, and see you next class.